starting on the middle. It's so weird to not have tally. Ugh. And we're live. We're live.
Live
What?
at Lyon Con.
We're live from Lyon Con. All right, I'm gonna wait until this actually goes live on my phone because there's like a 30-second delay, but people are watching and we're live, Tony. So we're actually live. We're just starting it up with the warm-up. There we go. Yep, we're live. There we are. There we are. There we are. There's Trodat. Hey, Trodat. Hey, Aquabone. Hey, Nat Cat. We're live from Lyon Con, y'all. It's a convention. We made it. Hey, Jim Face. Jim Fossey. Hey, guys, you know who's here? Legit. Who's actually physically here? DOD Spec Ops is here at Lyon Con.
True fan.
We might see him later.
baby.
He is a true and loyal patron of the program. Jonathan Issa. Hey. Uncle Billy, wish I could be there. I wish you could be there too. But you know what? Cuz next time we do an event, you're playing in the game. We got a hot seat on the B team for you, son.
Absolutely.
I'm getting feedback from my own speaker because I'm dumb. Burnt Bacon is here. Let Long Play No HUD is here. We're live. Hey, y'all are tuning in. Hey, Tri-State D&D Guild. Building the community, brother. Ed Evil's here.
Revolution.
So I'm gonna get this show going. We were originally gonna do Rise and Roll live, but Brian is busy being the admin for an Adventurers League Epic. So you guys don't really know what that means, but let me, in short, Adventurers League is like serious tournament level kind of things. Okay, so you basically have a character like a normal D&D game, right? But there are certain rules that you have to abide by, and the idea is that you register your character and you register all the adventures that you've been on and what you've played in. And that registry keeps it legal and keeps it honest. So you can't cheat, basically. Like, you can't walk into some game. But the idea of Adventurers League is if you live in Chicago and you're playing a game and you go on vacation and you're in Texas somewhere, you could find an Adventurers League at a local game store or comic book store and go play in their thing.
And it like connects.
And it connects.
All your like stats. And
yes.
Stuff. That's
and
crazy.
they can check you to see if you're
Wow,
legal.
that's
See what I
pretty
mean?
cool.
So it's
really
kind of cool. So this is an epic, and there's some other incentives basically that we got credentials for to run at Lyon Con. Okay,
Wow.
so because we're in day 2 of Lyon Con, this is kind of a big deal. So Brian is the admin of that over there, and then there's some Adventurers League DMs who are legit running this whole thing.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
This whole setup, I was looking around. It's surreal. Dude.
And it's
really wicked.
It's early, and it's also Super Bowl Sunday. But for those who don't know, Lyon Con is a little convention that Ryan Thomas from Initiative Coffee and I started up, and our friend Brielle. Hi, Brie. There she is. Hi, Brie. She's the Board Games Club advisor at the school. So we kind of partnered with these different clubs at the school to start up our own con. We got vendors. There's Comic Rec.
Yeah.
We have Fair Game, which is our friendly local game store, who is like a premier vendor and sponsor. They're also doing sessions yesterday and today where people can learn how to play board games. So they kind of have a demo library, and you could try out different board games all day long. And they're selling all sorts of gaming accessories. We have some artists. We have some cool stuff like the Horror Sci-Fi Prop Preservation Association was here yesterday.
Wow.
With their legit movie props.
Wow.
We've got 2 of our local libraries here kind of doing demos and stuff. They've got books, they've got some games, some makerspace stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool. Yesterday we had the Bard's Tale live. We had Dungeon Rats, and they're kind of a big deal. In the world of podcasts, the Dungeon Rats are kind of a big deal, and they're kind of connected through their community through the One Shot RPG studio, podcast studio in Chicago. And then Rivals of Waterdeep, which is actually picked up. It's a live Twitch stream that's picked up by D&D's Twitch channel.
Wow.
So they have like a pretty big following. So it was really cool to have all those guys come out to Lyon Con last night. We also had a panel discussion later last night from women in gaming. So it was kind of a panel of women gamers discussing women in gaming and the community and that whole experience. So really cool stuff going on.
Yeah,
but
great.
today we are here with me and Tony and Jack.
Yeah.
And we're going to just talk with you guys. You're going to ask questions or don't ask questions. And we're going to make Jack's character for the B team.
Yeah.
Are you excited, Jack?
I really am. I've been sitting watching these for weeks.
And Jack's
And
never
sitting
played.
behind.
Jack has never played, guys,
I've
so this
only
is going to be a
directed-
first time.
We're popping his D&D cherry.
That's right. We're popping his D&D cherry.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's say hi to a few more people here logging into the chat. Wyro Wood. Wyro Wood. I have to say it.
Wyro Wood?
Wyro Wood.
Why row wood?
Yep.
Because you can. You can row
Yep.
wood.
Everybody clocking in there.
Why?
Let's
Wyro
long
Wood?
play. Natcat. Wyro Wood. Mac Jimbo. Oi from the UK. Oi, mate.
Hello.
Hello, mate.
Hello, governor.
Oof,
I can
my
do a better
connection
one
is
than
bad.
that, but that was for the army.
I think our connection's good here, actually. Karafa did a speed test, and it was like
Yeah.
stupid fast.
Yeah, he was saying that the upload speed was like 300-400 megabytes per second.
Yeah, so we're
Pretty crazy.
So if there's lag, it's your fault because we're in good shape right here.
Yeah.
Bill, please get them to say my name. Wyro Wood.
Wyro Wood.
Why row wood? Because you can row wood, and you should row wood.
Yeah, buddy. All right, let's
Live,
jam. We're gonna
row
play a
wood.
little song
my
while
motto.
Jack
I'm
O'Brien
gonna be
thinks
dancing.
about what kind of character he wants to make.
do I-
And if you didn't notice on the table what we have here, here's our Waterdeep Dragon Heist book that was donated by Greg Tito and Wizards of the Coast. Thank you, Wizards.
Yes, much thank
Thank you. And then my player's handbook, which I bought with my own money long ago, and
But
it's
somewhere donated.
it's
to
got
us.
a custom autographed inscription from Satine Phoenix and Rudy Rutenberg of
Wow.
Maze Arcana. They actually drew the Maze Arcana logo, and they said, "Tell all the stories, make all the magic,"
Great.
which I feel like I do. I do tell all
agree.
the stories, and I make the magic. Some might even argue that the magic I make is truly magical, like a wizard.
You are a wizard, Bill.
Yes. This is a pile of dice that I bought while I was at Gen Con last year. And Jack, I'm going to show you this. You'll see that most of these are D4s.
Yeah.
And somebody would be like, why would you buy all the D4s that everyone owns? Because I made a game.
Yeah.
I made a game. I made a game system and a game genre. Multiple genres connected to the system. And the mechanics all involve D4s. Now, D4s in gaming are typically the most annoying dice because they don't roll really well. It's like trying to roll a pyramid. So people often ask, why would you make a game that uses all D4s? Because I can, because I'm Bill Allan, that's why. And some people have asked, when is this game going to come out, Bill? The answer to that, Jack, is soonish.
In progress.
Yeah, all the copyright and legal stuff has to get completed, but here's some other interesting dice. This is a D14. It's a 14-sided dice. That's very rare. Now, what do you see on those, Jack?
It's got days
Days of the week. That's right. So the cool thing about the D14 is how many days are in a week? Seven, right? So this is 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I could say to you, Jack, in this encounter in D&D, you've been poisoned. Well, how long is it going to last? How long, Jack? 5 days?
Friday.
Yeah. So it'll last till Friday. You got 5 days.
Wow.
Maybe the disease that you get is 14 days. Rip. It's going to last till
crazy.
next Sunday. See? So it kind of adds this little element of randomness. This. No! What happened? Where is Jack? Jack, find the dice. It's D16. I also have a D16. Rafa, do you see it? This is live. This catastrophe has happened live. I heard it roll. Maybe it's under the camera tripod. It's a clear dice. There it is. Oh my god.
Here we go.
Sorry. Sorry, people at home. This is live. That was a live catastrophe.
Now we're back in action.
Okay, this is a D16.
Okay.
It's a 16-sided dice. Why would I need this? I have no idea. Other than if I'm using my D4 system and I want it to roll better. See, look at the difference. This rolls more.
Yeah.
So I could simply use 1 through 4,
And then like
5 through 5 through 8, all that kind of stuff. And it's like having 4 D4s in one die. See? So that'd be a 3. This 7 would be a 5, would be
3, right?
a 3.
Yeah.
That 5 would be a 1. Yeah, see, you get it. The last one is this. This is a D3. Now, so see, that's a 2.
Yeah.
But you see what else is on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, PS and R. Rock,
Okay.
paper, scissors, Jack. because you know when you're playing rock paper scissors, you can like read somebody at the last moment and like flip your switch so that you beat them if you're good. This way you can't cheat at rock paper scissors. So I roll. Right, I got a paper. Go ahead, roll. See if you beat me. Rock. So my paper wraps your rock. I win. So it's got 1, 2, and 3 on the corners, on the edges, but then PRS. Yeah, kind of cool. So that's those are my dice from Gen Con. And by the way, our friendly local game store here, Fair Game, they sell dice. They have loose dice and then they have dice sets. They also sell miniatures. They have miniatures, which I like. They sell books, they sell board games, gaming accessories, card games. They basically are the full service shop, Jack. And what's most exciting is that they're opening in LaGrange, in our hometown. They're opening a brand new store in downtown LaGrange. Should be this spring. It's going to be very exciting. They're going to have live events there, Jack. So people will be able to go in and play games. All right, let's check in with our people. Percentile and regular. They're talking about dice. Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't even know what that would look like, to be honest.
They roll forever. So Tommy's like, what the heck is going on? We're checking in live from Lyon Con, people. That's what's going on. We're live from our own little mini convention. Here I have some other swag for you. Jack and Tony, this is the Dungeons & Dragons animated cartoon series.
That's kind of cool, actually. I
from
never knew about
the
that.
80s. So when I was a kid, actually I was kind of an older kid. I might have been like a tween. They came out with this series. Like D&D was kind of big in the 80s. But like many things that go commercial, at a certain point you're like, this isn't D&D. Like, it was kind of cheesy.
The show?
Yeah.
Here's my only question.
But it's for kids.
Yeah.
Here's my only question.
Yeah.
Was the gnome community represented within the movie?
Not really. Sorry, the gnome community.
The gnome community is the community that is constantly pushed out of Hollywood, Bill.
That's right. The gnome
And
community
I have to be
is
honest
not
with you.
represented.
Gnomeo and Juliet was probably our only recent representation in Hollywood. And I have to tell you, Bill, I won't stand for it.
That's true.
I absolutely will not stand for the lack of representation in the gnome community.
Tony, you should
Yeah.
fight for that.
I should. I should.
So
become
the other
fellow
thing that we
gnomes.
have, of course, are some of the skull splitter dice that we play with in D&D with high school students. You guys would recognize these. These, of course, were a gift last season from, again, one of the fans, Vance. Vance was eager to have us try these out. And today, Jack will be rolling some character stats for your B team character.
Yep.
So Tony found a guitar backstage. It's not even his guitar. He just happened to find it.
Dave found it.
Dave found it. That's true.
Tony's got that.
Karafa's here, behind the scenes, running things as usual. So, Tony, what song should we play to inspire Jack's character creation?
Bill, this is the one we've been practicing.
Okay, I'm thinking. Keep it going. I gotta get in the mood
You
for
go
it.
your lyrics. Yeah.
We might get a copyright,
Oh, you're right.
but that's okay. So we're gonna play a little cover of a song by the venerable rock band Chicago, because we're in Chicago. We're here at Lyon Con. So here we go. Waiting for the break of day, searching for something to say, dancing lights against the sky, giving up, I close my eyes.
Ready?
Ooh. Sitting cross-legged on the floor,
We're jamming.
25 or 6 to 4. We'll do one more verse, Tony.
All right.
One more verse and then we'll end it after that chorus.
You know what we need right now? Hood horn. dedicate this song to Brian.
Brian, who is adminning.
Brian, who's admitting.
Great performance.
That's dedicated to Brian. Good. Fantastic.
Gotta love Brian.
All right, I feel warmed up now. Holy crap. The chat just won't stop.
What?
Slow down.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's...
Okay. Are they booing us?
No, they're like, you need to sing more. That was fun.
There's no trumpet.
Okay.
That's for my dad. I played that once for my dad. He was like, there's no trumpet. There's no point. What are you doing? His mustache was like attacking me.
So, thank you, everybody. So, hey, Chris, how's it going, buddy? It's my old neighbor Chris, running some games, teaching the youth of tomorrow about the tabletop joys.
About
All right,
the
Jack,
tables of today.
let's think about D&D.
Yeah.
What do you know about D&D so far? I'm gonna scoot this in so we pick up a little bit of Jack there. Go ahead.
If I'm gonna be honest, I mean, as much as I've directed, I really can't say that I know a whole lot of. Like, I get some like general concepts where it's kind of like there's a story sort of. And
Yes.
Kind of like going through.
So, I would say that in D&D you play a character.
Yeah.
Now, how much that character is like who you are is up to you, right? Some people
sure.
play D&D, they make a character, and that character is basically just like a fantasy version of them. And I think, hey, Rabid Creature, hey, Wizard Cretio, Brad Hall, Joey the Moose. So, you make a character,
Yeah.
right? Now, I think some people naturally make characters that are kind of like a fantasy version of
Yeah.
themselves, right? And if you're comfortable doing that, that's what you do. If you want to branch out and try something totally different that's not you, that's the beauty of the role-playing game, right? So it would be hard for me, for example, to make a character who couldn't speak, because I'm a talking kind of person, right? So if I made a character who couldn't speak or who just was like quiet and more introverted, that would be a challenge for me. But sometimes those challenges are good, right? Likewise, if Tony had to play a character who couldn't play music and couldn't talk, it would be so hard for him. Now, we have races and classes, okay?
Alright.
So B team is completely open because you can make anything. Let's go through the races. Okay, so we have a dwarf.
Alright.
The dwarf is, have you watched any like Lord of the Rings movies or anything like that? Hobbit? No? It's so much easier when people know what that is. All right, so dwarves are basically shorter, stockier. They're kind of, they're not super small,
Alright.
but they're like swole typically. Okay.
Okay.
And by the way, some people would say that dwarves are good for certain classes. Like dwarves make good fighters, but really anything could be anything. So don't worry
Yeah.
about what they do. But just imagine, if you will, what kind of race you would want to be. So there's dwarves, there are elves, okay? There are halflings. Halflings are really small. They're among the little people, right? There are gnomes, like Tony has gnomes. There are humans, okay? I like humans.
Yeah.
A lot of times people want to play the most exotic thing that's not like what they are. And I've done that, but then I always kind of come full circle and I'm like, it'd be fun to just play a human. There are dragonborn, right, which kind of look like that. They're basically humanoid with dragonish features and dragonish kind of elements to them. And by the way, every race kind of has their own benefits, right? So
Specialties.
it's not like in a video game where like there's one choice that's the best choice.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that way. Like this is very open.
Do they all have like they have specialties?
I
that,
can
they're
make
good at?
yes. They all have specialties that are good at.
But they all like are
But
good.
you could theoretically play anything, and they're all good. That's
Alright.
that's the point of balance, right?
Okay.
So Tony made a forest gnome. Now they're little people, right?
Yeah.
And you might be like, well, they're not going to be good fighters. Not true. They could be great fighters.
Dude, I destroy people.
All right.
Just because they're not big doesn't mean they can't take down something. A half elf is someone who is half human, half elf.
Okay.
I'm gonna get. Wow, this is moving too fast. All right, bring it down a little bit. Okay, so one important thing that I want to do, Jack, is crowdsource this. So we've got a great crowd live watching.
Oh,
Hey, Gadsden Culpepper. Mr. 12 Watch 4 says human, so you can get a feat. So we'd like your feedback. I'm sure this is going to flood the chat, but
I mean,
Jack's pretty open.
Yeah, I've directed this for a while, but I really still
The
have
wizard,
very little.
the wizard Cretio has informed me that I must tell you about the expansions because this is the player's handbook. So there are
Yeah.
basic races that are open. There are additional books that we can consult. So you know how Beecher in season 3 has the Asimar? He's kind of like a fallen angel. Okay. Or Sam has a Tabahi, the cat person. So
Yeah.
there are other races too beyond the ones I'm showing you.
All
Okay.
right.
Half orcs. Okay, so an orc is kind of typically thought of as a monster. They're humanoids, but they're kind of hideous and barbaric. Half orcs basically are human and half orc.
Okay.
Tiefling. So this is what Neely was and what Carl was. They're kind of humanoids of like demonic or infernal descent.
All right.
It doesn't mean they're evil. It just means that they have that in their bloodline. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are races, and there's a bunch more. The classes are kind of what your character does. Okay. So look through this list. This is a brief description of each one. I'm going to give you a minute to look through that while I'm checking in with the people on the live stream. People want you to make Goblin, Arakra. Those are the bird people. Warforged? No, there's no Warforged on the continent where they live. RIP. Wyro Wood, please shout out DoD Spec Ops. DoD Spec Ops is playing a game right now. He's here, you guys. Those of you who didn't hear this earlier, our fan and your fellow community member, DoD Spec Ops, is here at Lyon Con. We've been hanging out all weekend, and it's awesome. He's actually over playing a game right now. So I don't know if he will come on camera or not. We'll see if we can get him to come and say hi. All right, so some people have mentioned half-elves, humans, kobolds, goblins. Yuan-Ti. Yuan-Ti are snake people.
Okay.
And the amount of snake-like features they bear is kind of variable. A lot of people want you to make these, Genasi, Earth Genasis. Well, actually, Genasis are an option on my continent.
Man, dude. Remember that guy?
Fallen Asimar Paladin, a Protector Asimar Trickery Cleric. Genasi, so there are a lot of people clocking in with options. Genasi are a race that are tied to the elements. Okay, so there's 4 different sub-races of the Genasi. There's the fire Genasi, the water Genasi, the air Genasi, and the earth Genasi. So just like the 4 elements, earth, wind, fire, water. And each Genasi, whatever you choose, you have some like abilities and resistances to that race, right? So if you are of a fire Genasi, you might literally be like hot to the touch and have like a little blue, little flame element to you, and you have an affinity with that element that you choose, and
So
some powers.
Can you
with
like
it.
wield it? Sort of.
Yes. Just like in similar fashion, like if you choose a tiefling, you have some infernal abilities, right? So you have resistance to fire damage because you have a little bit of demon in you. Same thing with halflings have a special racial trait called halfling luck. They're lucky, which means anytime they roll 1 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll it, which is huge. So every race has a cool little feature. Okay, now don't necessarily pick a race yet, but let's see what you thought of the classes when you were reading through the classes. And the classes kind of determine a lot of your abilities and how you fight and skills and knowledge and whether or not you use magic. Okay, we'll break this down. We've got barbarians.
Yeah.
These are fighter types. Okay, who principally use more of like their primitive skills in combat and their knowledge of nature and survival and stuff. They don't use magic. They rely on their speed and their strength in combat. They're not like wearing heavy armor typically.
Okay.
They can be really cool. A bard is what Tony's character is. It's a bard is a little bit of a jack of all trades. You're a little bit fighter, a little bit thief, and you're a little bit like performer / music, and you actually have a little bit of a magical ability through your bard ability, through your charisma and your ability to influence people, and you can literally use your song as magic, right? You can cast spells using your bardic powers, and you can inspire other people. You should. It's amazing. Then there's cleric. Clerics are divine casters, so they get their magical power from a god, or gods, plural, right? And that allows them to wield magic. They're pretty good in combat typically. They can wear armor, they can use weapons, and they have spells. And clerics are typically the best healers. They're not the only healers, but they're good. Druids are like clerics, but instead of a god, it's more about nature. They draw their power from the natural world. They can also cast spells. A fighter is just a straight up fighter. It's very versatile. You could be a fast, kind of rapier finesse fighter, or you could be like a bulky axes and swords fighter, shields. Like you could be a knight. Either. It's kind of how you choose to customize it. But a fighter is a fighter.
Yeah.
A monk is, think of like kung fu, okay, with some degree of like sort of magic. They can channel their will to give them kind of special abilities that they can use in limited doses. Paladin. Paladin is like a fighter and a cleric combined. It's like a holy knight, a holy warrior, right? So they're really good fighters, but they're granted some divine abilities from their devotion to their god. Rangers are like a fighter who's tied to nature, okay? So they have some magical abilities, and they're really good as kind of hunters and trackers and scouts. Rogues are scoundrels, and a rogue could be any number of things. A rogue could be a thief, an assassin. A rogue could be like a fast talker and a con man. There's a lot of different ways to play a rogue. A rogue could simply be like an expert. You don't have to be a criminal, but you could be an expert at like locks and traps and searching and stuff. Like, some might even argue that somebody like Indiana Jones could be a rogue, right? Like a dungeon delver, an explorer. So sorcerer, warlock, and wizard are all arcane casters. They're all spell casters. Sorcerers use magic that comes from within them. They channel their will to like bend reality and cast spells. They don't have spells in the same way as like a wizard. So a wizard is more like a Harry Potter kind of wizard.
Yeah.
Like you have books with spells and you read magical words and you use, certain effects to create it. Like it's through your scholarly learning that you've cast spells in magic, and you know formulas and rituals. Sorcerers are kind of like, I just draw the magic out and blow through it, right? I'm a conduit for magic. Sometimes that backfires, where you get wild magic surges. Warlocks are kind of in between. A warlock gets his magic from a pact. They make a pact with a powerful being, and that pact grants them magical powers. It's nowhere near as broad as what a wizard gets, but they get this magic and they get some other special abilities through it, okay? So like Beecher's character in season 3 is a warlock.
Okay.
So those are the basic classes, okay? For B team, I can't really tell you what to make, but I could tell you if someone has something already, right? So for example, Matthew's character Yomi is a sorcerer. He's a dragonborn sorcerer. Briz is making a rogue. Now, that leaves any number of other options open for you.
Know. All right, so hit die. How does that come into play?
Okay, so that's your hit points, right? So at level 1, you'd get the maximum.
Max of 10.
Right, in the game.
Like for
right?
fighter, I'd have max of 10.
You get 10. Plus you get, you get to add in your bonus for your constitution.
Okay.
So it could be +2, +3, whatever. So, and typically then after that, you roll, every level, you'd roll that and add in your bonus. What I do for my games is for the first 5 levels, you get max. That gives you a little more survival range, okay? So you guys for B team are gonna start off at a slightly higher level.
Okay.
So when we build your character, we're gonna build it up to 4th level.
All right.
So,
now,
what are you thinking?
I'm in between fighter and monk. I like that kind of like martial arts thing. I think that's really interesting.
And that's cool. So let's take a look at both. because there are ways where you could do either way. Okay.
All right.
So, like I said, fighters can be really cool, and they're often a good class to start off with because
Right.
you don't have spells to worry about. You just have some basic abilities and choices, and then it's kind of how you play.
Yeah.
So fighters have a fighting style. So if you look through these are fighting styles that you can choose from, right? And when you're at first level, you choose a style, and that kind of defines what fighter you are. It doesn't limit you, but it
So I
just
pick
gives you an
one of
advantage.
these?
Right. So like if you wanted to make a fighter who was really good at archery, that would be your pick. You want to make a fighter that was really good at defense. So while you're wearing, you'd be an armored fighter. Dueling is one where you have a weapon in one hand and maybe a shield in the other, right? Great weapon fighting is where you're wielding a big two-handed weapon, so you get bonuses on that.
All right.
Protection is one where you're kind of like more of a sentinel. You're like a guardian, so like,
Save other people.
yeah,
from
like
getting-
say like you're in the back with the casters protecting them while they're casting spells, and you're like a better defender. You protect yourself and other people. And then two weapon fighting is if you wanted to have two weapons, right? So if you wanted to have like a sword and a knife, or a sword and an axe, or whatever.
So does that, with the two weapon, would that
Get two
increase-
attacks.
So, okay.
You get two attacks. And there are some rules that go with that, okay?
All right.
Then you get other things like second wind. It basically gives you an opportunity to give yourself a little extra healing just naturally.
Okay.
And then action surge, which is huge. That's one of the things that fighters get that's immensely awesome. In times of need, you can push yourself beyond the normal limits, and it gives you like an extra action, right? Now that's limited to a certain amount of times before you have to finish a short rest. And a short rest is considered like 3 to 4 hours. A long rest could be more like 8 hours, okay, like going to sleep. At third level, a fighter gets to choose a martial archetype. And there's a couple listed here, and there's a couple more in other books, but I'll give you the basics. So champion is one martial archetype, and that's where basically you focus on being the best kind of fighter that you could be. And the biggest thing that gives you is improved critical. So when you roll to hit something in this
Yeah.
game, if you roll a 20, that's like, oh, I rolled a 20.
Yeah.
Well, for champions, if you roll a 19 or 20, you do critical damage. So it just opens up a little more of an opportunity to do maximum damage.
All right.
Okay. And then at like other higher levels, you get other benefits. 7th level, you get to add up more of a bonus to a lot of your physical skills, athletic skills, that kind of stuff. All right. Battle Master is another fighter archetype where you get combat superiority, which allows you to choose special maneuvers. Okay. Now, you get special dice called superiority dice that you can add to do these maneuvers, and then kind of when you run out of those, you have to wait until you've rested and regained them, okay? So I'll let you look at the maneuvers, but it's absurd, all the different maneuvers that you could choose from. And I think I have to read this again, because it's been a minute, but you learn 3 maneuvers
So I get to
of your
pick any
choice.
3?
Right. So these are all different maneuvers, but like some of them are like disarming attack, where you focus on disarming, or evasive footwork. So when you move, you can expend 1 superiority dice, roll the die, and add the number rolled to your AC until you stop moving. So
Okay.
it just makes you harder to hit. Lunging attacks. They have menacing attack, precision attack, pushing attack. So some of these abilities, sweeping attack or tripping. So some of them give you kind of these special moves
All right.
that you can use up until you've had a rest. You can use 3 of them, or however many that you can use. The last player's handbook option is Eldritch Knight. So this is where basically you are training as a knight, but you're also learning some magical things that grant you a little bit of wizard magic, okay?
All right.
Which can be really cool. One of the advantages that you get at level 3, which you'd be starting with, is weapon bond. So you learn a ritual that creates a magical bond between yourself and one weapon. You perform the ritual over the course of an hour, which can be done during a short rest. The weapon must be within your reach, and at the conclusion, you touch the weapon and forge its bond. Once you've bonded a weapon to yourself, you can't be disarmed of that weapon unless you are incapacitated. So like if somebody attacks you and tries to disarm you, that weapon stays with you. If it's on the same plane of existence, you can summon that weapon as a bonus action, causing it to teleport instantaneously to your hand. So like, it's kind of a cool like magical feature, but see how it focuses on the weapon and the relationship between the fighter and the weapon. So that's an option. Okay, let's look at monk, because you mentioned that as another thing.
Yeah.
So monks basically have some really cool abilities, and they're kind of like fighters have the superiority dice if you choose that. Monks have chi or ki or kai, depending on where you're from, but it's pronounced chi, and it's basically your internal willpower that allows you to do some kind of like amazing kung fu level stuff, right? One of the benefits of making a monk is that you have unarmored movement and defense, so you don't wear armor. You concentrate on your wisdom and your dexterity to give you a stronger armor class, okay? You have unarmed attacks, so you can attack people with your bare hands and do as much damage as like Tony would with a dagger, just with your bare hands, right? And then you have special moves like Flurry of Blows, where you can attack and do an extra attack if you burn a chi point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. You have Patient Defense, and you have Step of the Wind, so it'll allow you to disengage and dash. So imagine like if you watch like a kung fu movie and you see them do some incredible kind of stunts, right? The other thing is your movement increases. At level 2, your speed increases by 10 feet. So the idea is that you're this incredibly light, fast
Just, like,
moving, agile,
Dude,
you know,
if you were a goblin monk.
so, a goblin monk.
Dude, that'd be so sick.
We'll see what people think. So at 4th level, you get slow fall. So you can use your reaction when you fall to reduce any falling damage you take by an amount equal to 5 times your monk level. So, like, basically you could fall off the roof of the building and use slow fall and like
Just kind of like land and be like, all right.
okay, yeah. So I mean, monks are cool, and actually, I don't think anybody's played a monk. Right. So then, you must choose a way if we make a monk, because monastic traditions. So you know how fighters have archetypes?
Yeah.
There are monastic traditions. Okay. So Way of the Open Hand is one where it focuses on your chi ability and harnessing your attacks, right? So whenever you hit a creature with one of the attacks granted by Flurry of Blows, you can impose one of the following effects on the target. You can knock it prone, you can push it up to 15 feet away from you, or you can make it so it can't take reactions until the end of your next turn.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, so they're like that's one of the options. Way of the Shadow teaches you basically some. I think of Way of the Shadow as ninjas. Like that's a little more like ninjas. So you learn some magic to be able to do some cool shit that like normally people couldn't do.
So like more stealth.
Yeah, like stealth stuff, like darkness, dark vision, pass without trace, silence, all these kind of spells that allow you to either distract people or to sneak past people or places or things, right?
Okay.
That's kind of the ninja stuff. Way of the Four Elements is kind of like a little bit of, I guess, druid or nature magic folded into the monk. And then there's a whole bunch other, which I'm afraid to even look at the chat right now because I'm sure people want us to do a whole bunch of stuff. Swashbuckler and Way of the Open Hand.
No, dude, you gotta do Way of the Shadows. Don't listen to that, dude.
Monkey magic. No monk. Monk is a class in World of Warcraft. Quivering Hand. Every time I see a monk
Goblin.
or hear the word monk, I think about panda.
Yes, you do. Don't lie to yourself.
Just be a human.
A goblin Kensei monk.
Like I do.
Wizard Credio agreed with you, Tony.
What?
He said make a goblin Kensei monk.
Yes. Dude,
Like-
who is it?
Wizard Credio. He's yeah, and then
Wizard Credio is a genius.
yeah, Quivering Hand, yeah.
Just
true.
to state it really quick,
Kensei
this
to
guy
get
knows
part
what he's
parry
talking about.
If they go melee.
I need you to-
Wizard
and-
Credio
I
said it.
need both-
Credit
See.
is in his name.
Both of you, I need you to convince me on picking that.
Convince you on picking that?
Okay, so Kensei is in Xanathar's guide. I have to go get the Xanathar's guide. So most of the books are back at the studio, you guys. But fortunately, our friendly local game store, Fair Game, in Downers Grove, has a bunch of books. So I might just run over there and see if I could borrow a book for a second. Yeah. So people like Kensei. People like Goblin Monk might be a thing. I mean, it's totally up to you, Jack. Like what race you want to do. People keep saying Way of the Open Hand.
Cause goblins are sick, bro. Think about the art that the guy's gonna make. What's his name? The really
Luigi?
good artist, Luigi. Dude, think about the art that Luigi's gonna make. Dude, the Goblin Monk, bro. Dude, that's sick.
Champion
I would buy
fighter,
that on a
Crit
t-shirt,
Master.
bro. Dude, I get a tattoo for the
Oh,
rest of my
Sun
life.
Soul.
On
Sun
my
Soul
forehead.
Monk.
Just me
I
looking
forgot
like
about
me.
that.
With you, yeah.
As
With
a
it looking
monk.
like you as a Goblin Monk.
No, just me looking like me as a human
Right.
monk.
No, you have to be Goblin Monk. With me, Jack. Jack,
All
with
right,
me.
so
I
I,
don't
I
know.
think a
Look
lot
me
of
in the eye.
people, are going with the monk. A lot of them
Yeah.
are going goblin, but some of them are saying Genasi.
Goblin Brothers Unite.
What was
Let
it
it be
with
known on the
Genasi?
chat.
Genasi
They're
is
like
Jack
the
to be
The
a
elements,
elemental.
goblin.
Yeah.
Now, here's
I'm
the other thing that I
failing right
forgot to
now.
mention. So, in full disclosure, so humans get something. All right, so there are these things called feats. Jack.
the chat,
a feat
my
is like a
goblin
special
brothers.
thing. When you get every four
You're
levels,
I'm not.
every four levels, you could choose to have a bonus to your statistics, to your abilities, like dexterity or strength.
Okay.
Or you could choose a feat, and a feat is like a special power that sometimes grants you things that you can't get with your class. Okay. So I'm going to go through some of the feats with you. There are. You mentioned monk. Was it because you liked the idea of possibly like unarmed attacks?
Yeah, I mean,
So
well,
there's
with
a-
monk and fighter, I do just kind of like that, like martial arts, like physical combat.
Okay.
It's like a big thing.
So here's a thing that you might consider. There's a feat called Tavern Brawler.
Okay.
Now, Tavern Brawler is, I'm just going to read it for the audience here. Accustomed to rough and tumble fighting using whatever weapons happen to be at hand, you gain the following benefits. So you get an increase to your strength or constitution by 1.
Okay.
You're proficient with improvised weapons and unarmed strikes. So what that means is normally if somebody attacks like just a regular character's like, I punch him, boom, you do 1 point of damage. There's no roll.
All right.
Whereas with this, your unarmed strikes are now like a monk. They do 1d4 damage. So a punch, a knee, a kick. You could be like, I headbutt this person, I elbow smash this person. You can literally make up your own moves, and
Alright.
it'll do 1d4, okay? Plus your strength bonus. So
Okay.
if you have a huge strength, you could do as much damage as somebody with a sword with your fist or your knee or your foot, right?
Now think that plus being a goblin.
And improvised weapons, Jack.
Right.
So like normal people couldn't take like a table leg and beat someone with it.
Yeah.
You can.
All right.
A beer bottle, a mug, a plate. Like you could pick up any. You could take a skull off the ground and throw it at
The
somebody.
world is your weapon now, Jack.
Right. So Tavern Brawler is
some
kind of
pizza?
cool.
Is it pizza?
Your unarmed strike uses D4 for damage.
I don't know. I thought we were going to lunch.
This is the beautiful part. Listen, when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike or an improvised weapon on your turn, you can use a bonus action to attempt to grapple the target. So a lot of times it's like a combo, right? You like hit them and then you headlock them. And if your strength defeats their strength roll, you grapple them. Now they're grappled. Like they
They're
can't
just,
move.
like, stuck.
And everybody else in your party can just
go-
wail on them.
Yeah.
So having a grappler might be a cool thing. So you could be a fighter tavern brawler.
All right.
That's one option. If you want to stick with the simple stuff, you could be a barbarian tavern brawler. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because barbarians don't have to wear armor. They could be like monks, and you can use your constitution and dexterity bonus to give you a higher armor class.
All right.
And barbarians get the power of rage. So you can rage out as a barbarian
Just go off.
and go off, and you get a huge bonus to your strength, which affects this.
And how often can that be used?
So it goes up as you get higher levels. But basically, when you're first, so you be at level 4. So you get to choose, you get unarmored defense, rage, reckless attack, danger sense, primal path, and then an ability score improvement. So you don't even have to play a human, but let's just say for the sake of argument, you rage.
Goblins.
You have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws.
Okay.
So that includes grappling. So if you rage and you attack somebody, then you grapple, there's a very good chance that you're going to have them in a hold. When you make a melee weapon attack using strength, which would be any of your Tavern brawler stuff, you gain a bonus to the damage roll that increases as you gain levels as a barbarian, as shown in the rage column. So see this rage? Rage damage at level 4 is +2. So you get your roll plus your strength bonus plus 2 more on top of that.
But do you have a lower wisdom for barbarian?
No, there's no inherent,
Lack of wisdom.
like he could put his rolls wherever he wants. It depends on what he rolls too, which we're gonna do live here at Lyon Con. Are you excited?
I am.
And then you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. So while you're raged, you're kind of like the Hulk. Like
Alright.
People could hit you and you only take half damage for the hits that they hit against you while you're raged. Okay. So the rage lasts 1 minute, which is 10 rounds in combat. And Tony's played in combat. Sometimes an entire combat is only 3 or 4 rounds. So 10 rounds is a fairly long time. Once you have raged the number of times shown for your barbarian level, you must finish a long rest. So basically you get to use this a certain number of times per day. At 4th level, you get 3 rages per day.
All right.
Okay. The other thing barbarians get, like I said, is unarmored defense. So you could literally just be wearing clothes and have the same armor class.
Wasn't it the same for the monk though?
Yes.
All
Well, so barbarians' unarmored defense is their dex plus con. So constitution affects your hit points. Dexterity is always good, but constitution and dexterity gives you your armor class. For a monk, it's wisdom and dexterity. So it's just slightly different things. Reckless attack is when basically you can choose to go all in. You get advantage on the attack rolls during this turn, but attack rolls against you have advantage until your next turn. So it basically means you're throwing caution to the wind and you're just going in all, and you have advantage.
Bill,
What?
can I get coffee really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys talk about this?
At 2nd level, you have danger sense. Okay, so you have advantage on dexterity saving throws against effects you can see, like traps and spells, which is pretty amazing. Like it just happens all. That's how your life is all the time. You don't have to like activate it, or you just get it, which is incredible. At 3rd level, you choose a primal path, and there are more than just what's in this book. But like there's Path of the Berserker, Path of the Totem Warrior, and there's a whole bunch of other ones.
I don't know. I'm really feeling the monk.
You feeling the
I'm gonna
monk?
be honest,
Okay.
yeah.
So the monk, let's go to the monk. I feel the monk too because no one's played a monk in D&D with high school
I
students.
think it seems pretty interesting.
like ever. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have you read through.
Do I have to pick?
Well, so you don't have to pick right now, but I want you to think about, because I always try to think ahead. So I want you to read Way of the Open Hand, which I think is amazing, and
Yeah.
you get, it affects this stuff, but also read the ninja one, read Way of the Shadow.
I get up to here.
Yeah, so anything, because you're not going to
Yeah.
start at 6th level, you're starting at 4th. So read these two, and while you're doing that, I'm going to interact with the fans who are graciously tuning into our live stream here from Lyon Con 2019.
Thank you all for watching.
Yes.
Really.
Goblin Kensei Monk, Drunken Master, many good suggestions here. Goblin Barbarian. Go Wood Elf Monk, that could also be good. So what they're pointing out is this. Monk's primary abilities are wisdom and dexterity.
Yeah.
So when you choose a race, you kind of want to choose a race that's going to give you the benefit of wisdom and dexterity. Something
right.
that and there's a lot of options. The good thing is there's a lot of options. How's it looking, Dave? Good?
That's great.
Where's DOD? Is he still playing games over there? DOD. Goblin monks are good. Hey, Bill, what are your thoughts on playing D&D 5e with casters having unlimited spell slots? I think that's okay if you choose to do that at your table, but if you do that, you're kind of overpowering everything, so you have to balance it out. I think if you make your game in a setting where unlimited spell slots is a reality, it would affect more than just the character's adventuring. And my example would be like, there's an area in the Forgotten Realms called Halrua, and it's a very high magic civilization, like where day to day there's magic everywhere. Like everybody has access to magic. So if you do that, you have to really think about how it impacts the overall setting, and then as a DM, you'd have to scale your challenges accordingly, knowing that magic was basically unlimited. Okay, we have some more questions and comments. How have the crowds been?
I have to say,
Hey Marie. Hi Marie.
Marie.
Wave to Marie. Marie's the nice lady who sent Matthew those fidgets, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Aw,
And
that was very nice
We
of
still have Marie's origami
Yeah, they're on the wall.
up on the window
They're
of
in the
the
wall in
studio.
our,
Yeah.
studio office. Much thanks.
The crowds, all right, Mark
coffee.
Gump,
Initiative
welcome
coffee.
Mark, good to see you.
Initiative
The crowds
coffee, tastes
yesterday at Lyon Con were much better. We had a lot of families. We had a
Yeah,
lot
it was
of
actually pretty
like
nice.
a lot of kids, adults, high school kids,
It was a
teenagers,
pretty
middle
wide
school.
mix,
Yeah,
to be honest.
and it was great. We had a lot of board games and learn to play games going on, a lot of D&D. So
a
it
good
was
time.
pretty good yesterday. Today's a lot smaller, but it's also Sunday. It's also the Super Bowl. The Adventurers League tournament's going over there.
Which it looks pretty intense. I was kind of like gazing over when I went to
It's
go
an
get
epic,
coffee.
so it is pretty intense. Like the people playing that are not messing around. But yesterday was also big because we had some special guest streamers. We did the Bard's Tale live here. We did Dungeon Rats, and some of you guys might know Rivals of Waterdeep or any of the one-shot RPG studio productions. They're part of that whole collective. And then we had a women in gaming panel. So we had a lot of stuff going on yesterday. Dwarfs pretending to be drunk or being drunk. Drunken Master. Bill didn't see the Gnomes Rights March. Tony, it
Gnomes
looks like
Rights
you have some fans. They said you should start up a Gnome Rights March.
Listen to me, guys. I will start a revolution for all the other gnomes out there, possibly also with pigs that they ride around. First of all, there's been a lot of hatred towards Hank throughout the game, I've noticed. I don't know if that's Bill's love for, eating pigs. And, I have to admit, I enjoy a good hot dog here and there, but you know what? Hank is special, Bill, and I don't know why you torment him so.
You know what?
I feel like
The fact that we haven't eaten Hank for bacon yet means that you're still in luck. All right, I will point out a couple comments, Jack, before we get out the dice and start rolling.
Unbelievable.
But before we even do that, I have to go ask if we could borrow Xanathars, because a lot of people are saying we need to take a look at Kensei.
All right.
Aquabone wants to point out that the Goblin Monk is a lot of support for that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of support for the Kensei, which is like a monk, but it's instead of just bare hands, a Kensei tends to be weapon focused, so you make a spiritual level bond.
Yeah, but Goblin Monk is
Okay,
so
but
sick.
all right. So if I were to pick that, would I be good at both, like
Yes.
armed combat and
Yes, you could. So one of the things that like a lot of people are pointing out is that there's a way to build this character so that you just whoop ass, right? And that's kind of
the
a
point,
valuable thing. But you also want to play it for fun. So
Yeah.
remember when I showed you Tavern Brawler? It's not necessarily the smartest build,
Yeah.
but it's awfully fun because as people point out, like,
There's literally just sugar in this cup.
hold on, let me.
I sell like all grind sugar.
So as Robert Fast pointed out, give him Tavern Brawler at 4. Not mechanically the best, but then you can beat enemies to death with your tankard.
What?
So, like Tavern Brawler, like if you're playing like
yeah.
a drunken dwarf and you have Tavern
I
Brawler,
think Tavern Brawler might be cool though.
you might not even need a weapon. You
Wait,
can literally
is
just
that
have a
something
metal.
you can have as monk? Or is
Yeah,
that
you could have
different?
it as anything. It's a feat.
Oh,
so you could
yeah,
take,
dude.
You actually could take Tavern Brawler. It
Can
would
I
be
really?
stupid, but you could.
Do I have a feat?
No, because if you're a human, you could do the human variant and get a feat at first level. But if you are not a human, then the next opportunity to get a feat would be at 4th level. if you choose to opt out of your ability score. Hey, is that initiative coffee?
It is. I said it. I pointed to the camera.
Hey, hey, is that the handyman?
It is.
Do you have a minute?
I do.
Okay, handyman. We need your assistance. Jack is making his character for the B team. Now he's narrowed it down to monk, but some people are saying to look at Kensei in Xanathar's guide. What do you think?
What kind of monk do you want to be?
He just wants
I don't
to
know.
be a monk.
Here's
He
the
likes
thing.
the idea.
I don't build characters based off mechanics. I build them off concepts. right?
See?
So I would.
All right, here's what we're gonna do. You come around and come up here. We're gonna bring in the handyman, everybody, to
Ryan,
to
do we
give a
get
little
free refills.
no to have a chat with Jack and share his wisdom while Bill goes
Joke's
and looks
on
for a
him.
Xanathar's guide, and then we'll roll. So stay tuned.
All right.
And then we go to Portillo's.
Yeah.
Or is that what is that pizza? Are they selling that?
They're selling it at the concession stand.
I'm gonna go to Portillo's, though, to be honest.
All right, talk about conceptual.
Yeah.
Hey neighbors. So here, my approach to character development is different than a lot of people's because I focus on character development rather
Yeah.
than like character building, right?
Okay.
So when I build a character, I focus first on the concept I want the character to be, and sometimes you pull that from historical documents or information, sometimes from movies, sometimes from fiction, whatever. But I start with the destination and I find the ways to get there, right? So I start with what I want my character to end up looking like, and then I find the class, race, and background features that support that idea, right?
Yeah.
So monk is an interesting class because there's a lot of different ways you can go monk. You can go like the Avatar: The Last Airbender route. You can go like the stealthy rogue type monk, almost like a ninja.
Yeah.
You can go Kensai, which is like a weapon-focused monk. You can go Drunken Master, which is like a trope in like kung fu movies.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different options available to you. I don't have a Xanathar's guide with me
I think
right
he was
now.
gonna go Goblin.
Oh, was he?
Bring up the goblin part.
So ultimately, the monk is a cool class. I'm just like, without knowing what you want out of your character, it's tough for me to be like, this is the subclass, right?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is this whole approach of developing a character instead of just building one. The reason for that is to make sure that you're invested in your character and you're going to enjoy playing it, right?
Now,
Yeah.
Brian, we were throwing around earlier. We were talking about it with the Instagram chat. I think it was Instagram chat, right? Yeah.
YouTube.
Was it the YouTube?
Yeah,
I
we're on
think.
YouTube.
Okay. Sorry. I don't know why I thought that was Instagram. Anyway, we were talking about a goblin monk. Now, in my head, goblin monks are sick.
Sure.
What are your thoughts?
Here's the thing, like, because of this development concept, it doesn't matter what I think.
Right.
Right? Like, it matters what he thinks because he's the one playing
What
the
I
character.
Yeah,
What
for
you think if you're playing the character,
Right.
right?
No, well, what I think.
I
is
think,
Jack's.
like, I would think, like, if I was going to play it, that's a concept I could get interested in. But without, like, approaching it from a place where I have an idea about the character, it's
About
tough
the
for me to,
goblin.
like, judge, like, is that going to work out? Because I don't know what he wants out of the character, right? I don't think there's any bad race class combinations, especially in 5th edition. Some are going to be more successful, but 5th edition, by and large, has dropped racial penalties and just focused on the things you get from a race rather than the things you lose.
All right.
Right? So I think you can have fun and a good time and be successful kind of any route you go, as long as you're motivated by your decisions, right? Like as long as you're excited about the character, and as long as you're like focused on like, this is an exciting thing for me, this is what I want to do, this is a concept I'm excited about and can get behind, and can be motivated to play for the next however long, right?
Yeah.
For one shots, maybe it doesn't matter so much. For one shots, you're gonna play it for one night. Maybe like you just do a quick build on kind of whatever, right? But for a character you're gonna stick with for a while, like it would be a shame if you spent time building a character,
Yeah.
and then 2 weeks in you're like, oh, I'm kind of bored by this character, right? Like the goal, especially in a long-running
by
narrative, is to develop a character that you can embody and get behind, and really be excited to play every day at the table. So ultimately, like without knowing what you want out of the character, I can't lead you in any specific direction, right?
Yeah. You know, Because I mean, it really is like my first time playing D&D, so I think I'm.
So we can even.
I think I'm gonna pick monk, and I'm gonna see how I like it.
What level are you starting at?
4th.
Okay.
I think we.
So that's the benefit of like. So that's partially why you build characters from first level typically, is that gives you sometimes. I mean, with sorcerers you have to pick your subclass immediately, but with a monk, like if you started at first level, you'd have 2 levels to really decide where you're going with the character and kind of flesh it out and come up with the decisions you're making and how that leads to that decision. Since you're starting at 4th, you're not really granted that luxury, right? You don't really have that time. Instead, you get cool abilities right off the bat, right? So like it's a trade-off. But ultimately, I think monk's a cool class. There's a lot of versatility there, but we just have to figure out like what part of the monk is most exciting to you, and then lean into that. Right?
Yeah.
So we can do like the magic focused monk. We can do like the battlefield control focused monk. We can do the ninja style shadow monk. We can do a kensai, which is like a weapon focused monk.
Yeah, I like that. I like the
Yeah?
combat like related stuff.
I mean, they're all going to be combat related, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this way the open hand, I was definitely leaning to that because it's more like.
Open hand is cool because
Fighting.
it's a lot of control, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna deal a bunch of damage, but you're gonna do things like stun your opponents and grapple your opponents and trip your opponents. And that's a cool thing because like if you're on your first attack, you trip somebody, your allies get advantage when they're prone until they get up, right? So you're like, I'm a big fan of the open hand monk, but you have to go in being aware that your job as an open hand monk is supporting the rest of the melee characters. Your job is not necessarily hit point damage.
Okay.
Right? So if you're looking for big numbers on the dice, that might not be the way to go. But if you're looking to be super effective as like a team player and like focus on supporting other people, open hand is a great way to go.
Right.
All right.
And you have time. So what we're gonna do is, because unfortunately they didn't have an extra copy of Xanathar's over there, and we have some other things that we have to do here at Lyon Con. I'm gonna give you time to think about it.
Yeah.
We're gonna roll next week when we're back in the studio and we have Xanathar's guide. We'll take a look at the Kensei. So we'll have a continuation. I'm sorry if you're all disappointed, but your ideas have been noted.
We'll find out next time.
Yeah,
on
we
whatever
will
show
find
this
out
is.
next time on making character with Jack.
Yeah.
But we'll look at the options so that he can have a chance to read Kensei too when we're back at the studio, and then you can kind of, like Brian said, think about it more just other than just like I want to whoop ass, but think about like what do I imagine this character being? Because there's a whole part here that we didn't even get into, which is backgrounds that helps you think about your character. Like what are their values? What are their ideals? What are their flaws? What are they afraid of? What are their, what makes them like believe in themselves, that kind of stuff. And those are all things that can help you visualize this character. It's kind of like if you were writing a character for, for a short film or a movie. Like what would you, how would you see that character when you close your eyes? How do you envision that character? What would they do in certain things, right? And like Brian said, if you invest in thinking about that character beyond just one dimension of like, I want to be able to punch things and hurt them, like, if you think about that character, then it's really going to click, and you will enjoy the game more.
You'll
because
enjoy the game more. It will be easier for your DM to come up with interesting things for your character.
you've had a chance, and then we'll finish up that character so that you're ready for B Team.
All right.
So this has been a brief little glimpse into what's going on here at Lyon Con. We're going to head out. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It's been fun, and we will see you in the coming weeks as there is a lot of content coming through the pipeline on both channels. Initiative Coffee has Monster Mondays, and my channel has my Monster Mondays, so we've split up some of that stuff. We have Rise and Roll on Initiative. We have the Bard's Tale on Initiative. If you're a Twitch person, Brian's running Long Rest on Saturdays, so a ton of content. We're going to be starting B Team in February, so there's all sorts of stuff. And of course, if you have any questions or comments or things that you want us to address, especially if it's questions, Brian and I are happy to talk about those table topics on Rise and Roll. So send us your stuff. And until then, may you drink coffee and roll dice and be happy. I just made that up. That sucked.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Peace out. Bye, Carafa.